Welcome back to Toll Racing. I got myself a digital ultrasonic cleaner a little while back. I wish I would have gotten one of these a long time ago. This is a must-have tool in your shop. It beats a parts washer tenfold because it does all the work for you, except for one part, and that's you have to drain the fluid out, clean the tank out, and then put the fluid back in. And it's more of a hassle than I want. It's really not that big of a deal, but it's a lot more of a hassle than I want. Plus, like in my situation, I've been pouring the same fluid back in it because I don't want to buy new detergent every single time. I have a lot of it saved up, but I don't want to just keep replacing the fluid. It's very wasteful. So I've been using the same stuff. So what we're going to do today is build a recovery tank, a filter system, and all that stuff so that we can just keep using that same fluid and filter it through a 5-micron filter and put it back in. That way we'll get a lot more life out of our ultrasonic cleaning solutions and all that stuff. And hopefully it'll work. It should work. I don't see why it won't. Not an expensive project to do, so let's get going on it. It's going to be pretty fun. The very first thing we need to do is build a base for this thing to sit on a little 30-gallon barrel. So I'm just guessing this is 30 gallons, but essentially once we're done, this is what it's going to look like. So we have to build a little frame so this thing's sitting on its feet. Otherwise, I think it'll vibrate and actually wear through there. So we need it on these rubber feet. So that's what we're going to do first. I'm going to try to offset this thing so it's sitting nice and flush on the front. And that way, on the back, that's how we're going to get our hoses in instead of drilling holes. We may drill some holes up top, but I think I'm going to run everything going over the top. So when the fluid goes back in and it returns to it, I'm planning on using this, which is just for a washing machine. So it has that pre-built in curl there. And so what I'm going to do is I'll just drop that into the tank in the corner. And then when we're done filling it, I'll just drop it back down onto there. So that we can put the lid back on and everything. We don't have to modify the corner of the lid for refilling. The other thing you could do for refilling is actually pump it back through here, which is what I've been doing in my crappy little system that I had rigged up. It wasn't ideal. It's okay to do it that way, but it's slower. I think this is going to be quite a bit faster. So this is how we're going to filter it. So this is just a whole house water filter. It has a flow direction and it has really inexpensive drop-in filters. So this is a 5-micron. It's extremely simple, which is what we want in this scenario. And we'll see how long these last. On the way, when the fluid's coming out of here, I am going to run it through a screen. So it's going to go through a screen, which is this one. I'm repurposing this. These aren't that expensive, but this was just off my pressure washer. And then when I modified my pressure washer, I used a different style one. But this is how, when the fluid comes out, it's going to go through, and it's just the biggest mesh screen for this. It's just going to take the big chunks and stuff out of it. That way we're not clogging up the filter with a bunch of junk that we could just take out with a screen. And then this is really easy to change or to clean out. You just take that off and dump it out. Really easy. So that's how it's going to come out of the machine, go through this screen, into the barrel, and then out of the barrel, through the filter, and then in. So let's get started on building a frame for this, and then we'll start making mounts and everything for our filters and all that stuff. So the very first thing I'm doing is taking the feet off, and this is how I'm going to measure our pattern. Instead of trying to eyeball around that foot, I'm going to go to the holes that it mounts on. Then when we build our frame, I'm going to make it so that these drop into a hole, but it's going to drop into a hole about halfway. So we'll drill the holes to that dimension. So that way when it's sitting in there, you can't really knock it off, but it's not sitting metal to metal. So that's kind of my plan there. Yeah, 18 and 5/16. So 10 by 18 and 5/16. Okay, so 10 by 18 and 5/16. So I'm going to build the frame. We're going to, out of 2-inch square tube, we're going to add 2 inches. So it ends up being 12. And the reason we're doing that is because now, if we go 1 inch in and 1 inch in, that'll put our holes right in the middle of those two outer tubes. And then at 20 and 5/16 length, so that's again 2 inches. That means we're going to be drilling 1 inch in. And then we're not going to miter it because otherwise we'll be drilling right through the corner of our miter. So we're just going to run these ones long, the full 20 and 5/16, and these ones short, so they'll be 8. So we need 2 at 8, 2 at 20 and 5/16. Okay, you'll never believe what I just did. I got these right, but I cut these at 10 instead of 8 like I wrote down. Because 10 was the center to center, and I'm like, why is it the exact, anyway. Dumb mistake, so I gotta take 2 inches off of these. So now I gotta cut it apart, which is annoying, but. All right, let's try this again. Okay. Super frustrating. I'm going seams out and seams down. It doesn't matter, but I like matching them that way. So at least something matches. All right, probably didn't need to weld it so much, but it is what it is. Okay, so now we'll drill it, and then I'm just going to tack it on so that it won't break off. So we'll just do one there, one there, one there, one there, one there, one there, one there. Got it? Good. So I'm just doing inch in. If we did all our math right, this should be, we have a little bit of wiggle room on the feet because they have oversized holes for the screws, so they'll be able to wiggle around a little bit. So we should be pretty good there. Now I'll use my Spring Tools center punch. Okay, now we got to measure the feet, figure out exactly how big the hole is. I already have a step bit on there, so we'll just mark out which step we need to go down to. It may be the whole thing, to be perfectly honest. Okay, so this doesn't have to be super precise. We just want to do it even. So I'm just going to do it like this. Let's flip this. So somewhere in there, what is that? Almost an inch and an eighth. What size is their step bit go to? Probably 1 inch. Not even an inch. Yeah. It goes to 7/8. Let's see, I got a bigger step bit. Let's put a bigger one in. I changed my mind. We're going to use an inch and an eighth hole saw. Get over. Best part about this drill press is it has no power at all. So you don't have to worry about the part catching and spinning away on you. It doesn't take much effort to hold it. Okay, so there, now we have our holes. Theoretically, when we set this on there, it'll just fall right into them. Woohoo! Nice. Okay, we did good. Now let's weld it on to our barrel. Hey, that barrel doesn't like to weld. Have to be a little more cautious. I'm gonna have to start the weld on here and roll it down into the barrel. That barrel's thinner than it looks. Yeah, it smells terrible. straight on. It's pretty cool. All right. All right, so this is what I come up with for this. I would rather use an elbow there, but I don't have one, and I'm not going to go get one specifically for that. So it appears that I have to put this whole thing together. Otherwise, I won't be able to spin the filter on. So I have to assemble this whole thing on the bench like this, and then the last fitting will be this one. And then this is just going to run into the back like that. So that won't be too bad. So that's our return system. All right, and here's the whole house water filter that we're going to use for the fluid returning to the ultrasonic cleaner. So it'll go, the pump's submersible, so it's down in the bottom of the tank, and then it's going to go into this filter, and then from the filter into that washer hose and into the tank. So as I'm editing this video, I realized I never really showed the pump. The pump, there's a link in the description below for it. They're cheap on Amazon, but I usually use them for draining cooling systems. They're intended for, I think, transferring diesel is what they're intended for. And I've swapped all sorts of stuff with them, and it hasn't complained yet. We're not running any pressure on any part of this thing, so it's not super consumable. I'm not concerned about leaks or hoses blowing off. Really, the most pressure that'll ever happen will be right here. And that's going to be because the filter's clogged, or on its way to being clogged, or just the resistance from the filter itself. Okay, so we are ready to test this. So I am temporarily just hooking my little pump, which is just a transfer pump. It's 12 volt. I'm just hooking it to my jumper box. And then once we confirm everything, we will then go and make a more permanent one. But that little guy, there's a link to this in the description below, but it has its own switch, which is nice. So I think what I'm going to do is I'll just zip tie this all up here, and I'll just leave this switch there. And then on the other end, I'll probably add a cigarette lighter, so that all we have to do is either plug it into a jump box, or you can plug it in to a power supply, such as one that I already have out somewhere that I can't find. Where did I put it? Such as this, which I'll also put in the description down below. But this is a 10 amp 12 volt output, and it's just cigarette lighter, or you can cut that off and use it. So you could do something like this, and then maybe even permanently mount it and plug that in, or you can get a 110 volt pump. However you want to do it. It's really not that big of a deal. I'll probably just add the cigarette lighter end to it, and then I can do it either with this, or I can do it with a jumper box, or however I want to do it, plug it into a car. I'm going to fill this with the old fluid that's been used a lot, and then we'll go ahead and run it through the whole thing. So we'll drain it, let it screen it, since it hasn't been screened yet, and then we'll pump it back in. And we'll see how good it filters it out. So there's about 40 hours on this fluid that I'm going to pour in here. This is the rest of it, because I had a little bit more than 5 gallons in it. And now let's make sure our tube's in there. Now watch this barrel leaks. Okay, so the filter's working. I hear it coming out. There's the screen. Let's see how much flow we're getting out the back. So it's coming out at a decent clip. It's going through a little 3/8 ball valve, so it's not going to be crazy fast on the discharge. So while that's draining, this is the solution I've been using. It says it cuts grease and dirt and carbon, and it seems to. But this is the only one I've ever used, so I don't know if, I honestly can't attest to it one way or the other, but this has good reviews. It does work really well, so it's definitely a good place to start, or if you want to be different, you can get a different one, but I'll put a link to this one in the description below too, if you want this, if you're thinking about getting one of these. It definitely works. I just don't, I just can't attest. I've never compared it to anything else. So, all right, I hit the switch and I didn't expect it to fill that, so start filling that so quick. So here goes our transfer pump. And I'm going to actually let this thing rinse a couple times. I'm going to use it as a rinse. So here's how fast it comes out. Just actually not too bad. So I'm going to go ahead and rinse. I still have it draining, but I wanted to rinse the tank out. It's not taking the color out as much as I was hoping. It's still coming out very brown. So it fills faster than it drains, which is a little odd. It almost makes me wonder if I have something screwed up in that filter. Oh, I guess I could let the air out. There we go. When there's soap, there's bubbles. It's crazy how fast that little pump works. It's a great little pump. All right, so now let's use it. Let's clean some stuff. So start by flipping the power on, and you can see it saves settings, so it has me at 80 degrees. If you can read that on the camera. 80 degrees, that's the actual temperature right now because it's cold. And this is how long that's how long broke my tripod. That's how long the thing will run for. Let's see if I can get it to stand up. Okay, so 80 degrees. This is the actual temp. We don't have water in it yet. It heats basically the base, so you're not gonna like burn out an element by that. But we are going to fill it right now. So that temperature may go down. So the fluid still looks gross, so then that's diluted with an additional 6 gallons of stuff. So it is what it is. The parts still come out clean though, so it doesn't really matter what that looks like. Okay, so I'm gonna let it heat up to 80. It does take quite a while to heat to 80. 80's hot. But I'm gonna let it heat up to 80, and then we're gonna throw some parts in there and we'll clean them. I gotta go find something to throw in there, but I got lots of parts bins, so we'll find something. Okay, so here are the parts that we're gonna use as trials. I got a little piston. Ugh. Let's set that in there. That's not going to be all the way under. We're going to have to let it sit sideways. We're going to do some spark plugs. I have a couple bolts that are just really gross. That bolt. This plastic cover, so we'll see what happens with the plastic. Here's a shift linkage. It's just kind of gross. I can just go down there. A fuel pump. Normally you would take something like this apart beforehand, but for demonstrating purposes, we'll just stick it in there the way it is. Yeah, they're not too dirty, but you know, there's some stuff down in the grooves and stuff that would be hard to clean. Here's an old pipe wrench. It's not super dirty either, but we'll see how much it cleans up. It'll probably clean up pretty good. And then these are actually newer, but they're just used. And then these I've had for a really long time. They could use a good cleaning. And then these, I found these underneath the truck just like this, holding onto a nut from putting a toolbox in. It's kind of funny. So the chrome's all falling off of them and everything, but we'll stick them in there and we'll see what they look like when they come out. They won't unlock. They're like really rusty. So anyway, we'll see if it can't do a little bit of something with them. So this basket actually works pretty good. When I put it in the corner, see if I can, maybe I'll put it in this corner. Like that, and then I have a hook on it. So it'll hook on this side. So anyway, something like that. Okay, so you can also, oh yeah, I was gonna try this because this is polyurethane. I wanted to see what happens with this. I may not like the 80 degrees, but that shouldn't be out of range for it to handle. Yeah, if polyurethane can't handle 80 degrees Fahrenheit, then I don't know what to tell you. So let's get this in there. Obviously that stuff's all pretty gross. Hopefully it's not enough volume to overflow our tank. And the temperature is getting close to 80 degrees, 74. And our piston just about makes it under. I think it's under there far enough. So, put the lid on. We'll turn our time back up to 30. 30 is as far as you can go, and I don't know why that is. I don't know if it's hard on the machine to go longer than that. I'm going to try the degauss one. Okay, so in the background you can hear it. It's not loud in person, but for some reason the microphone makes it extremely loud because there's a lot of high frequencies and stuff we can't hear, and it's actually must be so loud that it's distorting the microphone on the camera. So anyway, I left a little bit of volume so you can kind of hear it. This is on degauss, so it has a high frequency, then a pause, then a low frequency, then a pause, then back to high frequency. And I believe what it does is the high frequency does the cleaning, the low frequency makes the bubbles that form on the surface rise to the top so that the high frequency can then get to the part better. Otherwise it's being isolated by the air bubble, or at least that's how I understand it. But in reality, it doesn't seem to make too much of a difference on the parts that I'm cleaning, but on more delicate parts and stuff, it probably would make a bigger difference. All right, so now we're gonna pull the parts out. So it's hot, obviously everything's gonna be hot. So it dries real quick and everything ends up with a powder on it. For just kind of what I'm doing here, normally I would blow them all off with an air wand. That is definitely the preferred way. But for, I don't know why, but on this one I just wiped everything off with a paper towel. It works way better to use a blower though. A dust does appear if you're doing a lot of rusty stuff. Everything gets coated in kind of like a powder. And once everything dries, it just blows right off of there. But keep that in mind if you're doing something that has orifices or something that stuff like that can get down in. This is the polyurethane mount. It actually came out pretty good. It looked real pink when I first took it out, so it made me worry. But it actually cleaned up. It looks brand new. That thing is from probably around 1996 or so. So that's a pretty old mount. And it looks almost brand new. The fuel pump, I'm going to take it back apart again, or I'm going to take it apart and then put it back in. So we went another 25 on top of what was there. It pretty much cleaned up the rest of this housing. Other than we trapped a chunk of crap. That actually looks pretty darn good. So this was the spring behind the diaphragm. That's really clean. This is the screen in the top of the sediment bowl. And that actually turned out really clean as well. What you're seeing is just the film of the stuff. So this turned out pretty good. Moves free now. So I'll probably throw all this stuff in. Again, you can run it as much as you want. So this is pretty clean. Look at that. It says Made in USA on that. So I wonder if this thing's been rebuilt before. I'm going to see if I can't get a rebuild kit for this thing. And then the screws turned out pretty good. Again, I'll probably run them through again, but I want to drain this out, and I want to see how much sediment we got in the bottom. And then this I still have to take apart, but I couldn't see that screw because it was covered in crap. So I can see it now. So I take that screw off, and then this should come apart, and then I can clean these valves and everything else. So we'll probably do that before I throw it back in again. And then here's our wrench. So it's turned out pretty good. So that's one 30-minute cycle and one 25-minute cycle at 80 degrees. But it started the second cycle, it was less than 80 when I started it. So yeah, it's turning out pretty good. Pretty cool. The amount of effort it takes is really nice that you can just stick it in there and forget it. A little bit of dust in this one. See that? How good that cleans up. So everything left on it just comes right off. Just a brass wire brush. All right, well, I wasn't trying to fully restore this thing, but man, it sure did turn out good. Pretty cool. All right, so there is the grit. So what I'm going to do is just let this dry, and then tomorrow I'm going to vacuum it out. It's the least wasteful way of getting rid of that dust, instead of wasting paper towels and stuff trying to wipe it out. If I needed to use it again right now, I would obviously do that. But since I don't need to use it right now, I'm just going to leave it overnight, and then tomorrow it'll be dry because it's really hot anyway, so it's drying really fast. And then when we go to use it again tomorrow, all I have to do is hit that switch, put our hose up, hit the switch, and fill it up. So that's pretty cool. So I'm pretty excited about that. I'm really excited about how cool this wrench looks. I wasn't actually expecting that to turn out that good. I just was trying to clean it up a little bit, but that turned out pretty cool. And then the carburetor is turning out okay. I don't think I actually need this. I got to look up a kit for this now. I assume this is still the original carburetor from the 64. It's off on a Y block 292 Ford. But I need to find the socket. That's a very funky screw. So I need to figure that out. And it looks like someone's been into it before, because it looks dented or something. But anyway, I got to figure out how to get that out. And then I got to see if I can't get a kit for this. If I can't, I'm just going to put it together and hang it on the wall, because I don't know why. I think it's really cool looking. So I'll probably like just clean it up really good, and then just have a little wall piece if I can't restore it to make it work. Well, thanks for watching. I am going to do a test. I have 2 of these parts washers, and I'm actually going to test all the different fluids and a couple creative ones that I'm going to come up with, and see how they do. So stay tuned for that one. Hit like, subscribe, and do all that fun crap, and we'll see you on the next one.